All right, so let's get started on our new topic for today, which is all about whales, dolphins, and porpoises. So the first thing I have for you guys is, what exactly is a whale anyway? Well, I will let you know that they are mammals. Humans are mammals as well. And when you are a mammal, that means that you give live birth to young. It means that you are warm-blooded. It means that you have a backbone. So if we remember, animals with backbones are called vertebrates. So reach around, you guys can feel your backbone or your spine, which means that we're mammals as well, and we have backbones as well. And whales, there are also 90 different species of these guys. And we're going to learn a little bit later about how you can categorize whales and why some are related to more closely related to others. But the first thing I do want to talk about is that all whales are in the order called cetaceans. So can you guys all say cetacean? So cetacean is just a fancy Latin word that basically means whale, and it's how, like I was saying, we categorize whales. So in that order, cetacean, there are two different types or groups of whales. One is called baleen whales, and the other whales are called toothed whales. So every single whale that you guys can possibly think of, they fall into these two categories, baleen and toothed. They also have some fancier names. So a baleen whale is also in the group called mysticetes. So can you guys say mysticetes? So baleen and mysticetes are the same thing. Toothed whales, on the other hand, they are called odontocetes. So can you guys say odontocetes? So toothed whale, odontocetes. Now you might ask, why are whales in these two groups? Well, it's just a way to set them apart by different features that they have. So if we're thinking about a toothed whale, just in the name toothed, that means that whales in that group have teeth. So I'm going to show you guys a picture on my phone. I'm sure you know who this guy is. You guys see that right there? That is an orca, and that orca, as you can see, it's smiling with those teeth. So all toothed whales or odontocetes have teeth. Baleen whales, on the other hand, have teeth that look like this. They're also called baleen. Pretty cool. They kind of look like a toothbrush or something of that sort. So these are the types of teeth that baleen whales have. So these two different categories of whales, they have other unique features that set them apart as well, but a lot of their features have to do with, one, their teeth, and two, just their external anatomy in general. So external anatomy, all that means is that external means the outside, and anatomy means different body parts. So it's their outside body parts that really separate the baleen whales from the toothed whales. So I want you guys to get out this whale anatomy worksheet. So it's worksheet number 1. And we are going to talk about, 1, their mouths and their teeth, but 2, how their anatomy or their body parts are different and also similar to one another. So we're going to do this together. All right. So first, by just looking at the worksheet, you do have 2 whales on here. This one up here, over here, is a dolphin. Now, did you guys know that dolphins are actually technically whales? They are, and they're in that toothed whale category. So this is a dolphin right here. That's going to be your toothed whale. And down here, this is a blue whale. And blue whales, they have these types of teeth, baleen. So we're going to talk about the toothed whale and the baleen whale. So by looking at your word bank and your 2 whales that we have on this sheet, let's just start by going over the word bank and seeing what we can fill in right away. So the first word is flippers. So flippers are just what whales use to swim. Have you guys ever heard of Flipper the dolphin? If you haven't, it's a really cute movie, but his name is Flipper, just like his flippers right there. So those are flippers down here. These are flippers. So you're going to want to put next to that arrow flippers on both. So like I said, these 2 whales, some have they sometimes have different features, but sometimes they have the same. So they do both have flippers. And just a reminder, once again, if I am going too fast, absolutely no worries. Feel free to pause the video. Feel free to come back to it later and go at your own pace if this is too fast. All right, the second thing on the word bank is a rostrum. Now, a lot of you might not have heard the word rostrum before, but all that means is a beak-like feature on an animal. So dolphins have rostrums. You know that their mouths are kind of stretched out past their head. So that is called their rostrum, or you can also just call it their beak. And beak and rostrum are both on this sheet, so if you want to just cut them or cross them both off, you can write rostrum or beak right where its right where its teeth are, right there. Rostrum or beak. All right, let's go to teeth. So I just talked about how these whales are separated pretty much because of what's inside their mouths. So which ones have teeth? Is it dolphin or is it the blue whale? Now, if we remember, the blue whale is a baleen whale. So that means that the dolphin is going to be the one where you can write teeth. And just put it in the arrow next to kind of where that line on its mouth is. I know you can't see the teeth, but that's obviously where they would be. All right, so if the blue whale does not have teeth, it means it has baleen. So right where there's that arrow that is pointing to that blue whale's mouth, you can write baleen right there. All right, so let's move on to the dorsal fin. Now, both of these whales actually do have dorsal fins, but they're just in different places. So the dorsal fin is going to be that top fin that you can see when they are coming in and out of the water. So the dorsal fin is going to be that top fin on the dolphin. And on baleen whales, the dorsal fin is still there, but it's kind of pushed back closer to the tail, and they're much smaller. So that small fin is also the dorsal fin. So you guys can see on the top of the dolphin and the top of the whale, right there and right there, that's where their dorsal fin is. All right, let's go on to flukes. So flukes is another word for tail. So right where you guys see the two arrows that are kind of pointing to the tail, that's where you're going to want to write flukes. And you'll also notice that there's another arrow that is pointing kind of to where the flukes are, but it's more pointing to the middle of the tail. And that is going to be called the medial notch. Notch in there. So you can see what I'm saying. Oop, over here. The flukes are the side part, the medial notch is in the middle. So now you can cross off that as well. All right, you guys will notice that I have the word blowhole on here twice. It says blowhole 1 and blowhole 2. And this is because toothed whales, such as dolphins, only have one blowhole, where baleen whales, such as this blue whale, actually have two blowholes. So kind of how like we have two nostrils, think of it the same way as how baleen whales have two blowholes. They have two places where they can like spew out their water and get air. So blowhole, you're going to put 2 next to the blue whale, and blowhole 1 next to the dolphin. All right. So the only the three things we have left, we have the melon. Melon, it's kind of funny. Have you ever had a parent call your head a melon? Well, one of the ways we get this word is from toothed whales. They have a compartment in their head. That's why they have such big flat heads, where that is what you call their melon. Their melon helps them with echolocation and trying to find out where they are in the water, which we're going to talk about at the end today. But just know that that's where their melon is. So right where it's showing that arrow next to the big part of the dolphin's head. All right, cross off that. And then finally we have eyes. So the eyes, just like how humans have eyes, or whales and dolphins do as well. So where you guys are seeing the two eyes, you can write eyes. And then the ventral grooves. So on a lot of baleen whales, they have these grooves that are kind of underneath their mouth right here. So in that arrow, that's where you're going to put ventral grooves. And those just allow for baleen whales to have like more stretch kind of by their mouth, and it just helps with feeding. It allows that skin to expand and contract when they are eating. So ventral grooves. And then I just did notice we have one other blank in the humpback, or in the blue whale right here, and that's going to be where the ears are. So the ears, do you remember in the shark lesson when we talked about how they don't actually have real ears, but they're inside of their body? Whales are going to be the same thing. They have ears, they can hear, but they're just little tiny holes that you can kind of see. So you can write ears there as well. All right, and that is that worksheet. Once we are done with the lesson today, feel free to color this in or look back on the video if I went too fast and you need help finding some of their external anatomy parts. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about these different categories of whale. And so we're going to start with baleen whales. Now, these baleen whales, there's 14 different species of them, and they're generally larger than toothed whales. So, for example, the blue whale, which is the one that was on that sheet, is actually the largest animal on Earth. They're extremely, extremely big. I think I actually do have a picture of one right here. So in this picture, it says that this guy is 97 feet, which is about an average. So you can see it compared to the tiny little human on this side and also the elephant on this side. So blue whales are really, really big. Now, a few other facts about baleen whales is that they migrate annually, which means that they travel long distances twice a year. They travel once to try and find feeding areas and to try and find places to feed their young. And then they also travel again to find breeding areas, which means having their babies and showing their babies just kind of how to live and be a whale. So those two spots are a little bit different, and they travel very long distances to get to each of those spots. Now, you're probably thinking, how do they eat with those toothbrush-like mouths? Well, they don't eat big fish. They don't eat other marine mammals. They strictly eat plankton and krill and really, really small fish. Now, it's kind of crazy to think that these animals are so big and they eat things that are so small, but they just eat so much of it that it still is helpful for their bodies. It's actually pretty crazy. Thinking about how large these animals are, a baby blue whale that is just born eats so much krill, plankton, and small fish that it actually gains 10 pounds an hour. That's how much food that they are eating and how much they need to be able to develop and grow. So these guys grow very, very quickly and put on a lot of weight very quickly as well. Now, the baleen, that actual tooth structure, is made out of keratin. So just like your hair, if you're gonna feel this, it's a little bit much stronger than our hair, but it's made out of the same things that our hair is made out of and also our fingernails. And finally, like I said, these guys also have 2 blowholes. Another cool thing about whales in general, but mainly baleen whales, is that, like I said, they're some of the biggest animals on Earth. And it's pretty crazy and weird as to why all ocean animals are so much bigger than land animals on average. And this is because they don't really have to deal with gravity. So if you think of an elephant, those are some of the biggest land mammals. These guys, they put so much force and weight on their bones, and so it's really hard for such a large animal to live on land just because there's so much that their bones have to hold up. So if you think about a blue whale, floating in the water is not going to cause all that force and that pain on their joints and their bones, so it's much easier for them to get bigger faster because they're not dealing with gravity like land animals are dealing with. All right, so now let's move on to toothed whales. So toothed whales, like I was saying, that orca picture I showed you with all those teeth, they have teeth. They are also extremely intelligent. So they're some of the smartest animals on our planet. And they also are much more common in general than those baleen whales are. So like I said, there's only 14 species of baleen whales. While toothed whales, on the other hand, they make up 90% of all whale species. The crazy thing, and this is one of the things that I actually learned myself, is technically dolphins and porpoises are whales. So this might seem a little bit confusing, and also it's pretty crazy and cool that in the science world, things are changing and being debated and being challenged every single day. So I originally Googled this idea and asked, are dolphins whales? And some things said yes, and some things said no. But from the most that I've gotten out of it is that yes, technically they are whales, but they just have more unique characteristics than like a normal whale you would think of. So I actually made this little graph just to help you guys out with what I mean. So we have those cetaceans, so that is all whales, and that is just one big umbrella to categorize, like we were saying, different whales. So then we have your baleen whales right here, your toothed whales, which are right here. In the baleen category, you have your blue whales, your humpback whales, your gray whales, all those like really big guys with the baleen teeth. But in your tooth category, so over here, you have different splits that are different categories that go into toothed whales. So in one category, you have your sperm whale. That's this guy right here, and he looks like a pretty classic whale, except for the fact that they do have teeth. So you can see right there, there's teeth. In another category, in toothed whales, there are dolphins. In another category, there are porpoises, and we're going to talk a little bit about dolphins and porpoises in a second. And then finally, did you guys know that even narwhals are a toothed whale? So I can show you a picture of a narwhal. They're one of my favorite animals, and they're also called the unicorns of the sea. But this is what these guys look like. You can see that. And technically, narwhals are whales as well. So the toothed whales definitely are there's just much more of a variety of these guys, and they all have very unique characteristics. But like I said, they are all whales. Another thing about toothed whales is that they eat definitely bigger things than those baleen guys do. So they're going to eat large fish. They eat other whales sometimes. They eat sharks. They also can eat other marine mammals. So their diet definitely includes much bigger things, and it's because they have really, really sharp teeth to do so. So I just want to talk to you guys about the sperm whale really quick. This guy is also awesome because I know I said the blue whale is the biggest whale in the world. It's the biggest animal in the world. Well, the sperm whale is the largest toothed whale in the world, and it's also the largest toothed predator. And you can easily recognize these guys because their head is really, really big. Here's another comparison so you guys can see that there's like a diver and an elephant here, and that's just a good way to compare the size of the sperm whale. Another cool fact about orcas is that they are actually a type of dolphin. So if you think of dolphins in general, they are the largest dolphin in that category. So I did not know that before, but yeah, orcas actually are dolphins. And now I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about dolphins and porpoises. So if you think about dolphins and porpoises, you might get them a little bit confused. This is what two of them look like. So the one on top, that's a porpoise. This one on the bottom is a dolphin. And just by looking at their external anatomy at first, they do have a few differences. So as you can see, the porpoise has a pretty flat face, where the dolphin has that protruding rostrum. So most to all dolphins have some sort of beak on their face. The other main difference is that, take a look at their dorsal fin. The porpoise dorsal fin kind of is pretty triangular and straight, whereas the dolphins kind of curves to the back a little bit. So even looking at an orca, you can tell it's a dolphin by looking at that dorsal fin. So see how it curves to the back, where those porpoises that we were talking about definitely have more of a straight up and down dorsal fin. The other main difference is just that they live in different climates for the most part. So a lot of dolphins you're going to find in warmer water, where you're going to find porpoises in some colder climates. So those are the main differences between dolphins and porpoises. But like I was saying, once again, they are both toothed whales. So they both fall in that odontocetes category. The last thing I want to talk about with you is how dolphins and porpoises and just whales in general use noises and vibrations and echoes in the water to help them navigate, to help them find prey, and also to help them migrate. So there's a few things that are a little bit different. So first we have our baleen whales. So remembering baleen whales, they have these teeth. They're the ones that are a little bit bigger. These guys use song or singing even to communicate with one another. And scientists still aren't 100% sure why they do this. As you guys probably can guess, whales are pretty endangered and rare. It's kind of hard to study them just because there's not that many around, and they live in pretty crazy climates. A lot of them live really deep, or they are migrating all the time, so it is hard to study. But they do know that they sing. Some of the hypotheses as to why they sing might be because they're trying to mate. They might be trying to find one another. They might be trying to find things to eat. There's just a bunch of different reasons of why they might be doing this. So that is those baleen whales. They sing to one another. I don't want you guys to get confused with what toothed whales do. Now, toothed whales use something called echolocation to navigate and to communicate with one another. And echolocation just means that they use echoes and sound waves to find different objects around them. So if you guys ever watched Finding Dory, if you YouTube the Finding Dory echolocation scene, you'll have the scene will come up where there's a beluga whale and she's not quite sure how to use her echolocation. So that's just a really good example, and it's actually pretty easy to understand if you watch that clip, just because it's really funny and really cute, and it gives a good idea as to what echolocation is. But yeah, it's when they use echoes or sound waves to find an object such as prey. All right, I just have a few more things to talk about before we end. So let's get out this worksheet right here. It's the tooth and baleen whale comparison. And I will help you guys with this. I'm going to do about half of them with you, and then you can do the other half on your own. And always remember, the answers are online. You can pause the video if you don't finish quickly enough, or if you need more time. But this is kind of a good wrap up to summarize the differences between those two whales that I was talking about. So your baleen and your toothed whales. So it asks you to draw the letter T in the blank if you think the statement is true about toothed whales. It asks you to draw a B if it has to do with baleen whales. It asks you to draw a star if it is both, so if it applies to both of those whales, and an X if it has nothing to do with either of these whales. So let's get started again. It looks like this worksheet right here. Okay. So 1, dolphins, porpoises, and even narwhals are in this group. So dolphins, porpoises, and even narwhals are in this group. So remember, the first thing that's the easiest to remember or to find out what they are is by looking at their teeth. So these guys are all toothed whales. They all have teeth. So you're going to make a T for number 1. Number 2, the largest whale in this group, or the largest whale in the world is in this group, the blue whale. So if you guys can think back, we talked about the blue whale a lot today. What kind of whale is that? That is going to be a B, a baleen whale. So it has those crazy toothbrush looking teeth. 3, another name for this group of animals is called mystacetes. Mystacetes. This is baleen. So mystacetes are baleen whales. It's just another word. It's a Latin word to describe what kind of whale it is. All right, number 4. Animals in this group can eat other whales, big fish, sharks, and other marine animals. So if we remember, baleen whales eat kind of plankton, krill, things that are really small, which means that your toothed whales, so T, are going to be the ones that eat things that are a little bit bigger. All right, number 5. Many whales in this group live in the open ocean. So the open ocean just means something that's kind of far offshore. They live in deeper water rather than shallow water. So that one is going to be a star. So both of these groups live in the open ocean for the most part. Every once in a while, you can see a dolphin from shore. Sometimes they like to come in closer to the coast to hunt for fish, but for the most part, where you will find them a lot is going to be the open ocean. All right, number 6. Some whales in this group migrate. So migrate just means they travel back and forth for different needs that they have to live. And that answer is both. So some whales in this group migrate is both. So you can put a star next to that one. Dolphins migrate, baleen whales migrate, all types of whales migrate. All right, number 7. Whale sharks belong in this group. So this one's a little bit of a trick, but if you remember, whale sharks actually are not whales at all. They are a type of shark, but they're just really, really big. But they are sharks, so this one's going to be an X. All right. Number 8. Whales in this group use blubber to stay warm. So blubber is almost just like an extra layer of fat. Remember, all these whales live in the open ocean where it gets pretty chilly. So that one is going to be a star. Whales in this group use blubber to stay warm. Both toothed whales and baleen whales both use blubber. All right, this is the last one I'm going to do with you guys. The smallest whale in this group is the dwarf sperm whale. So this one's also a little bit of a trick, but remember we talked about sperm whales and I said that they're the largest toothed whale. Well, there's a few different types of sperm whales. The dwarf sperm whale is actually on the entire other end of the spectrum, and they are the smallest whale in the toothed whale group. So that one's going to be a T. All right. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let you guys complete the next half on your own. I just want to challenge you guys to see what you remember from today's lesson. And also, if you can't think of what the answer is, again, all the answers are online, so don't feel bad if you can't remember, because you can get the answer there as well. All right, so the last thing I do want to talk about is that whales sometimes, just like other animals in our ocean, are endangered, unfortunately. There's a few things that happen to whales that are not good for them, and it's causing them to be endangered and to die out. Just like the animals that we've talked about in the past few lessons, pollution is a really big problem for these whales. There's so much plastic in our ocean. Whales can get tangled in it. They can eat it sometimes, and it's just really, really bad for them, and it's becoming a huge problem. Overfishing is another problem for whales. Sometimes it's taking up their food source, and sometimes whales are accidentally getting caught while people are using bad fishing practices. And that brings me to my next thing, which is called whaling. And this is the practice of fishing specifically for whales and using their body parts for food and for things that you can sell. And this trade is becoming a huge problem because we're whaling so much that we're not letting the species reproduce and repopulate to have healthy populations. Also, climate change is another big one. Things are changing in the ocean and in the atmosphere all the time. And this is also just kind of throwing the whales' ecosystem and what they're used to out of whack, and it's causing many problems for whales as well. We will see you guys next week, so thank you very much for watching. Bye.